Hi, good evening. Okay, shall we start? Hello, good evening. Mr. Abdul, are you hear my voice?
Yes, hello, hi, good evening.
Yes, shall we start?
Hear you. Yes, please. Yeah, we can start.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, on behalf of Green International, we welcome you all. On behalf of Green International, advance congratulations to everyone to get your license. Okay. So before going to the actual subject, we need to discuss about the overview about the exam. Okay. First thing, what is the eligibility for this exam? The first one, we need a Qatar ID. Number one. Number two, we need a valid degree certificate, 4 years degree certificates. And here, electrical, electronics, communication, that is EEE, ENC, instrumentation, computer science, all are eligible to take UPDA electrical. And in your certificate or in the license, they mention that even though we spell that UPDA electrical, suppose you belongs to ECE means they mention the ECE. So instrument they mention in the instrument, not electrical. But the exam is UPDA electrical, but the certificate, your discipline mention that. Okay. So to get this license, we need to appear the exam. The exam consists of 25 questions, 60 minutes. So 25 questions, we need to get 14 right answer within a 60 minutes. Okay. So out of 25 questions, we may classify based on the subject wise. So that means, even though we say that UPDA electrical is common for that electrical, ECE, and instrumentation, other disciplines. That's why. So here we have in general, we have a 6 to 8 question from the electrical engineering, 6 to 8 question in the ECE, and rest 4 question from that general topic, and 5 question from the PMP topic. So electrical. So in general, we have a 6 to 8 questions. So in the electronics, we may have a 6 to 8 questions. Computer, communication, topics. So we have a 4 to 5 questions, and we have a PMP. We in general, we have a 5 questions. Total, we have a 25 questions. Okay. So this is based on that topic wise. At the same time, the 25 questions. So in our exam, we have a theoretical as well problematic questions also there. So 50% theoretical questions, 50% problematical questions. And so problem means not in our college days, we did a very lengthy problems, 8 marks, 16 marks like this. Here, most of the problem questions, we may use the arithmetical calculations. For example, they given data in terms of voltage power, we need to find the current. So simply we need to divide the two numbers, or we need to multiply two numbers. So simply arithmetical calculations. Sometimes they give the data in terms of power, voltage, current. We need to find the power factor. So we go for the trigonometrical functions. Sometimes real power or reactive power like this. And sometimes if you are communication engineer, so in the communication, we calculate the gain in terms of decibel. So decibels means we go for the logarithm functions. So sometimes we have a question, we may use the log functions. And if you go to that exponential form, that especially in the transient circuit, we may use the exponential form. So simple arithmetic calculations, log, trigonometrical, e power of x, log x. These type of functions we need to use to solve these problems, not very lengthy ones. And in our exam, the problems means usually in our colleges we are using the scientific calculator. But in our exam, they didn't allow to take a calculator. They didn't allow to take the mobile phone in the exam hall. So we need to solve this problem by using the system calculator. That is, in the desktop we have a calculator. So we need a hands-on training in the system calculator. In the system calculator, we may use the normal calculations, scientific operations, and program options also there that we discussed in the later stage. So in our exam, we need to use the system calculator. We need a hands-on training in this calculator. So in general, you know, and so the problems and theoretical, sometimes we need to use some rough papers. So in our exam, they will provide the rough papers. N number of rough papers they will provide it. So in our exam call, simply we need to take two things. One, Qatar ID. Number two, pen. These two things only they allow to take inside the exam hall. In earlier days, that is 3 years before, we need one more card, either debit card or credit card. In the earlier days, immediately they will give the license in the hall itself. So nowadays, the license we need to take the print up in the online Hukoomi account. We need to ask in the Metro. We go to that Hukoomi account, we pay, and we get the license. We need to download the license. So nowadays, we need to take only two things, ID and pen. And so we have 25 questions. So total number of questions is 25. Our objective to get the license. In our colleges, our objective to pass the exam, to get the first grade or get the first class with distinction like this. But here, our objective to take the license. Some of the people, they may say license with the grade. The grade is purely depends upon your experience, not based on the mark. Don't think that if you get that more than 80%, they consider say A grade. If you get that 8 into 20, we get the B grade like this. So only thing to get the license, we need a 14 right answers. We need to take 14 right answers. The grade based on your experience. So 25 questions, which means 50% you need to get the right answer. So which means we need to get 13 right answers. So 25 questions into 50%. So approximately we need to take the 13 right answers. Sometimes they give us 27 questions. Instead of 25, they give the 27 questions. So at that time, if you got the 50%, it's approximately 14. So that's why in general, we say 14 right answers, we need to get the license. And so the exam is a purely computer-based multiple choice questions. Okay. So like in our colleges, you may attend that online exams like this. So simply we go to that exam hall. So sitting in front of the system, the system is open. The system generates 25 questions or 27 questions. We need to answer that within the 60 minutes. We need to complete that. That's all. So n number of times you may go the questions here and there until you submit. Okay. And in general, we have 4 options are there. Sometimes, rarely, they may have a 5 options. Sometimes they have a true or false questions. Rarely they have some questions. Okay. So only concerns in this exam, to get the license, they give only 2 chances. So only 2 chances, and sometimes some of the people, or you may hear that they have 4 chances. So usually we have 2 chances, and the other 2 chances we call as a supplementary chances. So like the supplementary, just like in our college days, we write that exam. Suppose unfortunately we didn't get the good marks. What we do, we go to the professor, we request for the re-exam or retest. If you request, they will provide the re-exam. If you didn't request, they didn't do the re-exam. So similarly here, the supplementary chances, if you unfortunately if you didn't clear the exam in the first attempt, so we request for the supplementary chances. The request within 1 month, we need to request the supplementary chances. For example, say October 1st, you have an exam. By the God's grace, we will get the license in the day itself. Unfortunately, we didn't get that on or before October 30th. We need to apply for the supplementary chances. Okay. If we apply, they will give the chances. If we didn't apply, the supplementary chances is vanished. Then we go for a second attempt. And you have a second supplementary chances. So in general, we have 4 chances. The supplementary chances we need to apply within a month. So usually what the people do, the first attempt, they will get that. Unfortunately, we didn't get that. What they planned that after the exam, they go for the vacation. So the 1 month is finished. So we after that come back, you didn't ever ask that. And usually, once you upload your document, in general, it takes 30 to 40 days, they will call for the exam. In general, 30 to 40 days. But don't predict that they ask after 30 days. Some of the people, we hear that once you upload the document, within a week, they call for the exam. So once you upload a document, it means before uploading a document, you prepare for your exam. Because immediately they may call for you. That's why. But in general, most of the people, they told that after 30 to 40 days. Some of the people, very few people, they told that within a week, they will get the license, exam date. Okay. Exam date. Thanks. So usually once you upload a document within 30 to 40 days, you will receive a message. You receive a message. Once you receive the message, 100% you need to appear for that exam. Unfortunately, you are not available in the Qatar. If you are not available in the Qatar, definitely you didn't have that day. But at the same time, once you come back and you need to, along with your PRO, we need to go for that MMU office. We need to request that they will give or not. Okay. So once you upload your document, you are ready for your exam date, and anytime they will call for your exam. If you receive the SMS, 100% you need to appear for the exam. Sometimes, yes, sir. Sometimes instead of the message, they will call over phone. Usually Thursday evening, they will call for the over phone. So Sunday morning, you have an exam. That is also happened. And over phone, usually in most of the people working in the office and site. So usually unknown number, we didn't pick that. Because due to the site activity, unknown numbers, we didn't pick that. So at that time, we may get the excuse from that office. Because the SMS is a valid proof that. So that's why we didn't escape that. But over phone, if unfortunately you didn't pick the call, after 2 days, you realize that, okay, this is the number later to the MMU office. Then you go to the MMU office and you explain your situation. They may consider or not. Mostly they will consider. And very rarely, sometimes they will call 1 day before. You may receive a call today morning, 11 o'clock, tomorrow you have an exam. That instance also we hear that. And 1 or 2 persons, I hear that the day itself they call for them. Morning 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, they call for, today you have an exam, you need to appear. By this also, I hear 1 or 2 persons, they told like this. So once you upload your document, before upload your document, you're ready for your exam date. There any and experience, the grade is based on your experience. So less than 5 years, they consider as a trainee. 5 to 7, they consider as a C grade. 7 to 10, B grade. Above 10, they consider as a A grade. So 10 years, suppose usually what we do 9.7, for example, 9 years, 9 months. We say the 10 years experience, but they didn't consider as a 10 years. Usually they use the word in the Excel sheet, we use the word round up, round down. They use the word round down. So round down 9.9 becomes 9 years. Okay, so that's why if you are having 9 years, they consider as a B grade. After end of that exam, every 3 years you need to renew your license. At that time, automatically they will give the grade. That is, B is converted to the A grade. Okay. There are any list, and after that is 2013 afterwards, if you are working in the Qatar without engineering license, your experience does not consider. That is usually what they expect in Qatar. Those are having engineering license, only that persons only they consider as approved engineers. They didn't consider our engineering degree, lot of things. So that's why 2013 afterwards, those are does not having a license, they didn't say approved engineers. Your experience does not, they didn't consider that. For example, one more thing. A, B, two friends are there. Both are completed 2015. Immediately 2015, the A come to the Qatar. So 2023, we have a 8 years experience. So 2023, the B just we arrived to Qatar and he appeared for the exam. He have a 8 years experience in your home country. So this experience does not consider. This experience they may consider. Because this experience, 8 years experience in a Qatar without the license. So that's why this A, if the A both are completed the exam, both are passed the exam. A got the trainee, B got the C grade or B grade. So 8 years, so they call it a B grade. And only thing, the 8 years we need to attest that. Unless otherwise they didn't consider that. So that's why those are having experience in your home country, just you take the attestation and submit that. Thereby you can be able to get that grade. No. In Qatar, usually in Qatar experience, there is no need to take the attestations. Just we go to the Chamber of Commerce and along with the experience certificate, we need to submit to our CR company CR copy. They will attest it. That's all. But we need to do these things after, for example, say now 2013, 2023, now you got your license. So we say we have a C grade. And after 3 years, we need to renew your card. So at that time, we need to submit all the documents along with the last 3 years. That is current company experience certificate. So current, for example, say you are working in a company 27, 26. The same company means there is no need to attestations because you are working still, you are working the same company. So that's why just you submit your CR copy, it's enough. Because the Qatar ID, they mention the company name and the CR copy, some companies are there. That's why they understand, okay, you are working in the same company. Unfortunately, you are working in the A company, B company. So here we have already you have a C grade. Already you have a C grade. The A company you are working 2 years. So this experience certificate, you need to attest from the Qatar chamber. Just you need to bring your experience certificate along with the CR copy. Then will immediately they are attested. That certificate we need to apply it. Unless otherwise they didn't consider experience. That is, other than Qatar experience, we needed more for attestations. The local experience, they needed Qatar chamber attestations. Then only your experience they will consider. Suppose 2023 you got your license. So due to some reasons, you back to your hometown for 3 to 4 years. So after 4 years, you come again here. Within 3 years, you didn't renew your ID, sorry, that is license. That's why the license is vanished. So again, you need to appear for that new exam. Okay. So these are about that, in general, about the exams. And yes.
As the previous sponsor,
Again?
we people that at which grievances? UPDA or MMUP?
UPDA or MMUP? Yes.
And the other thing, how much is the fees for the exam? How much are the fees for the exam that you have to pay for the
Okay. So regarding the exam, we need to go to that B Ring Road Lulu hypermarket. Nearer to B Ring Lulu hypermarket, we have a MME office. You need to take your exam at this location. B Ring Road, nearer to the Lulu hypermarket. Okay. And for this exam, you didn't pay any fee for exam. Just you need to, free of cost. Just you need to upload your all the documents for related to the MME. But at the same time, what are the documents you need to upload it? Number one, your certificate. The certificate must be attestation. It's a third party. You need to apply. You need to spend. This is a different scenario. So for the exam, MME office, you upload all the documents. There is no need to pay any fees. Once you clear your exam, you need to take your license. At that time, you need to pay 100 riyal. Only 100 riyal. Yes. Nowadays, they didn't. I think they didn't ask the mark sheet. 3 years before, we need to attest the 3 certificates. One is a consultant mark sheet, degree certificate, and bona fide certificate. 3 years before. Nowadays, that scenario is changing. Just you current situation, just we discuss with that salespersons. I think bona fide certificate is not required, and I think consultant mark sheet, I didn't know that. Anyhow, we check that persons. And there is no need to take the individual assessment for the individual mark sheets, semesters. Because usually we have 8 semesters, there is no need to take that. So only we need to get that consolidated mark sheets. 0 to 5 years. So 0 to 5 years, they consider a trainee. 5 to 7 years, C grade, B grade, A grade. Okay. The grade purely based on your experience only. Yes.
Let's say I work for a company that my first job, let's say 2.5 years.
Okay.
Then I came out of the company for let's say 7.5 years.
Okay.
Will they will round for each one round of each one?
That is, first company you have a 12 years, second company you have a
2.5 years.
2.5 years. So
let's say 7.5 years.
Usually we say the experience in terms of years. We say in terms of years. They say they counted in terms of month. So they counted the months only. So 7.5 years, we have one company. Next company, we have 2.5 years. Put together, we say 10 years. So we say 10 years, but we need to get 60. That is 12 into 10, 120 months. If you have 120 months, they consider as A grade. Okay. So usually they calculated in terms of month, but in the documents, they mentioned in the years only. So usually how we calculated, if you have a company, you have a 7.5 years experience, you consider it as 7 years. and another company you have a 3.5 years, you consider 3 years. So 7 plus 3, 10 years, we may confirm that we may get the A grade. But usually we take the instead of 7.5, we take the round down numbers. Then only we can able to get it. Because if you think that I upload a document, I may get the A grade, but unfortunately we get that only B. So that's why always you round down, then you calculate it. You are expecting B grade or expecting B grade, and luckily you get the A means we are happy. So that's why always you round down. By this way you calculated your experience. So regarding fees, only 100 real. And sometimes the company, if you reimburse the 100 real, some of the company they are allowed to give that 100 real. So most of the person they didn't ask that 100 real. We need to get that increment. Instead of 100 real, we need to get that increment. Okay. So now, so in this exam, all the nationality may appear this exam. That is, we have a different universities. Those are studying in the different universities, they may appear for this exam. That's why in this exam, they didn't give us any specific syllabus for this exam. Okay, they didn't give any specific syllabus. But at the same time, here we prepare one syllabus based on the previous question papers. Previous question papers means again in your exam, it is not an exam, is not a hard copy. They didn't give a hard copy. Question papers is not in the hard copy. So usually in the group, in the social media, we get the questions. So based on the questions, we frame the syllabuses. So usually in our colleges, what we do before the semester exam, we collect the previous 5 years question papers or previous semester question papers, 5 to 6 question papers. We collect the question papers and we frame our own question back. So tomorrow we have an exam. Okay, these are the important questions. 100% these questions asked 5 times. So we need to study this question. By this way, we prepare our own question paper. Based on the same thing, we prepare the syllabus. For example, in the electrical, we have theorems are there. For example, Thevenin theorem, Norton theorem, maximum power transfer theorem, superposition theorem. So these theorems, most of the universities, they will come. Apart from this, we have some theorems also there. Miller theorem, some theorems. But here we discuss only the 4 theorems because we have a question from these 4 theorems only. So that's why we frame the syllabus based on the question papers. And this syllabus may be revised in the next batch because nowadays, tomorrow you will write an exam and you give one question paper. In this question, we hear a new topic. Then next batch we include that topic. So 3 years before we have a question from the DC generators. We didn't have a question from the computer communications. So nowadays we have a question from the computer communications, but we didn't have a question from the DC generator. That's why we remove the DC machines by include the computer communications. So by this way, we frame the syllabus based on the yesterday question paper. Okay. So here we have 10 classes are there. Out of 10 classes, 2 classes exclusive for the PMP topic. Again, the PMP means in the UPDA electrical, we have a 25 questions. Out of 25, we have a 5 questions related to the PMP topic. Don't think that we have PMP is a different classes. So we have a question from the project management topics. So that 5 classes, we have a 2. So that's a total 10 classes. Out of 10 classes, 2 classes for the PMP and 8 classes for the core subject. The first session 1. So we have a question from the DC fundamentals. We have a question from the AC fundamental. So we have 8 classes. In the 8 classes, we discuss these things. On the 4th class, we discuss about that electrical machines, especially transformers. On the 5th class, on the 6th class, we discuss about the power systems. Seventh class, we discuss about oscillators. So we have 10 classes. In the 10 classes, we discuss about these topics. As I told, we have 25 questions. From the 1 to 8, we may expect 20 questions. It's a core subject. So we have 20 questions in this area. Okay. So that means approximately each topic we may expect 2 to 3 questions. By this way, we get it 20 questions. Okay, first we discuss about the DC fundamental. In the DC fundamentals, we have a question from Ohm's law. Just today introduction class, just we need to about that topics, because we have I will spell more than 100 different words. Each topic we have a 10 words, means approximately 100 different words. I may spell that. Out of 100 different words, you may hear that 50 to 60 words. Okay, you have a confidence. Okay, this area, I am strong in this area, is no issues. By this way, that's why I spell that all the syllabuses. Okay, so we have a question from the Ohm's law. So once we discuss the Ohm's law, just we go for the resistance. So resistance R is equal to rho L by A at constant temperature and variable temperature. So we have a question from this area. Then Kirchhoff's law. So in the DC fundamental, we discuss these topics: Ohm's law, resistance, Kirchhoff's law, that is Kirchhoff's current law, Kirchhoff's voltage law. So once we know the Kirchhoff's law, then we go for the series parallel circuits. So 100% everyone having questions from this area. It's a very basic questions they ask in the exam. Series parallel circuits. Then we have so again in our college days, Ohm's law means define Ohm's law. By this way, we need to by got 2 lines. We write that. Here they didn't ask the questions like this. For example, Just I draw a graph. X-axis we have a current, Y-axis we have a voltage. Here X-axis voltage, Y-axis current. So we know that from Ohm's law, at constant temperature, current is directly proportional to the voltage. So based on the definitions, we need to select the appropriate graph. So if we apply the voltage, the current will get. So usually, if you apply the voltage, the current will flow. So that's why always the X-axis is a independent variable, Y-axis is a dependent variable. So we need to select this value. Because in the X-axis we have, let me discuss in detail in the DC fundamental. So we have a question, concept-oriented questions. Usually in our colleges, we have a question, they give the voltage, they give the current, find the resistance. In our exam, they didn't ask that type of questions. So that's why I said that we have a problems. Mostly we have a concept-oriented questions. And we have a theorem. Specifically, we have a Thevenin's theorem, Norton's theorem, maximum power transfer theorem, and superposition theorem. So these are the topics we discussed in the first class, the DC fundamental. And we may expect 1 or 2 questions from this area. At the same time, if you know this concept, because it's a very basic, we may apply the same concept in the other problems. For example, so it is a symbol for the current transformer. So CT, PT. So usually CT we have only 1 turns, the PT we have more number of turns. Why we have a 1 turn, why we have a more number of turns is based on the resistance formula. R is equal to rho L by A. So CT always having a low resistance, PT we need a more resistance. So R is equal to rho L by A. CT and PT both the made up of the copper. So both having same material. So rho is a specific the material. So both having that is it's a constant for that both the things. The resistance directly proportional to L. That is the resistance is high means the length is high means resistance also high. So more number of turns, which means we have more lengthy, that's why resistance is high. So small length, that is only 1 turn, which means small length. So that's why resistance is slow. And other things. Here usually CT we are using the thick wire. So here we are using a thin wire. So thick wire cross-sectional area is high, so resistance is low. So there is a specific reason why we use the thick wire, why we use the only 1 turns is based on the resistance. R is equal to L by A formula. That's why this concept very much useful. This CT, PT is related to the measurements. Or if you go to the field winding, if you go to the alternator, we have stator winding, field windings are there, exciter winding. The winding also, they are related to this one. Okay. So that's why it's a basics, but it's applied for that all the. And so it's an amplifier circuit. So in the amplifier circuit, this is R1, R2. Usually in our colleges, we studied this is a voltage divider biasing. So we need to find the voltage drop in this R1 or voltage drop in the R2. So to find this voltage drop in the R1, R2, we go for the Kirchhoff's law. That is, here we need to discuss the voltage division rule. By using this rule, we may solve this problem. That's why the DC fundamental, the first three topics, very much useful for that, not only for this topic, for all other topics also. Okay. So in the DC fundamental, we have discussed these topics. Then we discuss about the AC fundamental. The AC fundamental. So usually in our in Qatar, in the residential building, or you say that in the circuit, how much voltage you will get that? 240 voltage. So in the circuit, they are getting the 240 voltage. Sometimes if you go to the bus bar or LV panel, they mention that VP maximum voltage. So usually in the AC fundamental, we are using the different notations. We may use that. If you go to the circuit breaker, especially, there is not to go in detail. If you are buying the circuit breaker, we have in the wrapper, we have paper wrapper is there. In the wrapper, they mention that VP, that is maximum voltage. So especially in the AC fundamental, we discuss the different voltage. We call as a maximum voltage, or we may use the word VP. So in us, the theoretically we use the word VM, but usually in the site, in the design, we are using the VP, maximum voltage or peak voltage. Especially in the electronics, we use the word peak to peak. Excuse me. So in the AC fundamental, we use the maximum voltage, peak voltage. Sometimes we use the word small letter V, we call it a instantaneous voltage. And we are using that V RMS or simply V. We say the 240 voltage. The 240 refers the RMS quantity. And V average, usually in the EMF equations, in the theoretical, we are using this average voltage. So we have 4 different notations are there. So everyone having at least one question from this topic. They give that maximum voltage, we need to find the RMS voltage. Why we say they ask this question? For example, find the RMS voltage for the given equation. V is equal to 5 sin 317 T. So this is the instant, because small letter V. So instantaneous voltage, the given data in terms of instantaneous voltage, we need to find the RMS voltage. This question frequently asked in that exam. Sometimes they use the word 5, and we have one more question, 169. These 3, without changing the numbers, they ask these questions. Because this is the first time you see this number. But more than 3 years, 2.5 years, I taken this class. So this number, frequently I see this number. More than 15 groups, 15 to 20 groups are there. In this group, some of the people, they share the questions. The same number they share that. So that's why they said, I say that these numbers, they never change still now. Okay. So we need to converse different voltage levels. Once we know the voltage, we need to find the current. How to find the current? We need to apply the voltage to some passive components. So that's why here we need to discuss about the resistance, inductance, capacitance. we need to discuss about the passive components and how this passive component behave if you apply in the DC voltage, if you apply the AC voltage. For example, everyone familiar with that. In the inductance, we say RL load. If you are applying the current, we have a lagging power factor. If a capacitance, we have a leading power factor. That is the term. So here in our classroom, we discuss with some equations. That's all. So various passive component, how the system will behave. So simply we say RLC circuits. In the RLC circuit, we need to find the current, we need to find the power, we need to find the power factor. We have some questions also there. And next we discuss about the RLC resonance circuits. So in the RLC circuit is purely related to the electrical engineering. In the circuit theory, you studied this well. So here we are applying the voltage and with the same frequency or constant frequency. But if you go to the resonance frequency, the voltage is constant, we need to change the frequency level. So it is a electrical engineering, it's a communication engineering. Here we need to apply that voltage, here we need to apply that in our call. If you go to the college days, here we need to apply that AFO. So in the electronics lab, we are connecting the RPS. Just again, these are some words. In our exam, they didn't ask these words. Just these words you may stimulate your college days. Thereby, you can be able to retrieve your world data. So in our college days, in your laboratory, if you go to the electronics lab, we are using the word RPS, regulated power supply. By using the regulated power supply, we are giving the DC voltage. So usually with this using the DC fundamental. So similarly, if you use the word AFO, audio frequency oscillator. By using this audio frequency oscillator, we change the frequency ranges. So this oscillator, we are using the resonance circuits. So in exam point of view, here we are applying, we keep the frequency constant, we change the voltage. That type of problems we may have. So here we keep the voltage constant, we change the frequency. What the changing the frequency means? In the FM, we change the frequency, thereby we hear the different radio stations, 98 and 98.4, 97.5. Different frequency, we getting the different stations. That time we go for the resonance circuits. So we have some questions in this resonance circuits. And we have RLC transient circuits. So in the AC fundamental, we discuss these topics and 100% everyone having at least one or two questions from these topics. So frequently asked question is, what is the definition for the power factor? Most of the engineers, they share this question. The definition for the power factor, cosine angle between voltage and current. So usually power factor cos theta. So cos theta means x-axis, y-axis. So this is the angle. So usually what we do, angle XOY. So the angle between x and y we call as a theta. So here specifically we use the word cosine angle between voltage and current. So instead of x, I put a V, instead of y, I put I. So angle between voltage and current, and specifically we use the word cos, that definition for the power factor. That question frequently asked in that exam. And resistance here, RLC circuit, we need to find the current power factor. RLC resonance circuit, we need to find the resonance frequency, bandwidth, quality factors. In the transient circuit, we need to calculate the tau or instantaneous currents. So that's simply we are collecting the 5 years question paper. Now what we do, we are reading all the questions. That's all. Okay. Then we go to the electronics fundamental. in the electronics fundamental, first we start with the semiconductors. So silicon, germanium. So we need to study the basics of this. That is basic chemistry about the silicon and germanium. That is silicon, germanium. In the chemistry, in the outermost orbit, we call as you may hear the word valency band. Just you may hear the word valency band. The outermost orbit. These words you may study in the first year. It's too hard to remember your first year. Just imagine that. Just you entered your classroom. You see here and there. We have new friends are there. Just you recollect that chemistry class. So now you have that atoms. They mentioned that atoms. Nucleus. We have circles are there. You say K, L, M. And the outer circle we call as a outermost orbit, or we may hear the word valency. Usually in the chemistry, we use the word outermost orbit. If we come to the electronics, the outermost orbit we call as a valency. So here, as an electrical engineer, we forget about the inner part because it's purely chemistry. We come to that last circle because the last circle is a valency bond. Here, if you have a 4 electrons, then we call as a semiconductor. So this question asked in that exam. Why we say silicon and germanium is a pure semiconductor? Because it's having 4 electrons in the outermost orbit. So if you have a 4 electrons outermost orbit, we call it a pure semiconductor. Specifically, we use the word pure semiconductor. Okay. So in the electronics, we discussed about the pure semiconductor, impure semiconductors. Pure semiconductor, impure semiconductors. The impure is nothing but a P-type and N-type. That's all. P-type semiconductor, N-type semiconductor, we call it a impure semiconductor. Based on this, by using this P-type, N-type, we make a new devices. So we have a question from the p-n junction diode. So in the p-n junction diode, just we need to draw the symbol. That question also asked that exam. This is the symbol. And this is the anode, cathode. The arrowhead refers the cathode. That question asked in that exam. The diode symbol, the arrowhead refers anode, cathode, emitter. By this way, they ask the questions. So we need to remember the symbols. So p-n junction diode, we need to discuss about the symbol, construction, VI curve. So VI curve, I hope you remember this curve. And application of the diode. So for the main applications, we use the word rectifier and the switch. That question frequently asked in the exam. Similarly, we need to discuss about the Zener diode. And mostly out of 10 engineers, more than 8 to 9 engineers having one question from the Zener diode. Specifically, they ask the problem. So most of the engineers have the question from the Zener diode, but they ask that one theory question, typical question. What is the application of the Zener diode? It's a voltage regulator. That question frequently asked in the exam. And one more question, they ask that some problems. So mostly we expect a problem from the Zener diode. Then we discuss about the transistors. So again, transistor, we have 2 types, PNP transistor and NPN transistors. And we have 3 configurations, common emitter, common base, common collector. So that means we need to discuss in our colleges, we draw the 6 diagrams. PNP, common base, common emitter, common collector. NPN, common base, common emitter, common collector. By this way, we studied and we did an experiment in our college days. But in our exam, we have a question from this NPN transistor, common emitter configuration. Mostly, we have a question from these configurations. So that's why we forget about the rest of the topic. So only we think we discuss the transistor means common emitter configurations alone, because mostly we have a question from the common emitter configurations. We forget about the other configurations and we forget about the NPN transistors. Okay. So transistor, so different types and configuration. Specifically, NPN transistor, common emitter configurations. So in this configuration, we discuss about the output characteristics curve for the NPN common emitter configurations. So from this curve, we have one question. What is the application of the common emitter configuration, or what is the application of the transistor? So usually we have two applications. One is amplifier, another is act as a switch. So we will discuss in detail in the electronics fundamental. But so this area we have frequently asked questions. And if you are using only one transistor, then we call it it's a single stage. If you are using the more than one transistor, we call it a multi-stage. The multi-stage we call it a cascade amplifiers. So we discuss about the cascade amplifier. And so in this amplifier, we are using the transistor. If you are using more transistor, we call it cascade. If you take your output and put in the input, then we call it a feedback amplifier. So let me discuss about the feedback amplifiers. So again, it's a very lengthy topic, but here we discuss about the based on the previous questions. Based on the yesterday question, we discussed today, and tomorrow we take the license. So feedback amplifier. So every topic we need to discuss 5 to 10 minutes. That's all. Cascade amplifier, we draw the diagram, we discuss some equations, and we have some hints are that what are the characteristics for the cascade amplifier, what are the characteristics for the feedback amplifier. And apart from this, that is simply we say op-amp. So in the electronics fundamental, we discuss about, after the transistor, we discuss about that operation amplifier. Simply we use the word op-amp, or in our colleges, we are using that IC 741. So we may expect a question from this. That is 100%. That is out of 10 engineers, more than 9 engineers may have a question either Zener diode or capacitor or op-amp. So 100% we have here all the put together we have 10 to 15 questions. If we go to the 15 questions, you may get at least one question from this. So we have a question from this operation amplifier. Like in the transistor, we say that NPN, PNP, 3 different configurations. Here we have a inverting op-amp, non-inverting op-amp. Inverting op-amp, just again, just you go to your college, just you may hear this word. If you not hear this word, you are not able to recollect that words, you don't hesitate. There is no need to afraid that. Maybe Maybe some of the words you may hear that, okay, this topic, I already know, I have some confidence. By this way, you increase your confidence level. That's why I use these words. So inverting op-amp, non-inverting op-amp. After that, we will discuss about the summing amplifier, integrator, differentiators, all the topics related to this op-amp. 100% everyone having at least one question from this area. So amplifier and filters. By using op-amp, we may design these things. So these are the topics we discussed in the electronics fundamentals. Next, we discuss about the electrical machines. In the electrical machines, so usually machines always we stand to the Faraday's. Unless otherwise we didn't get any machines. So that we start with the Faraday's law, Faraday's first law, second law. Based on this law, we have one question. When we get the maximum voltage, we may generate. By this way, some questions also there. That question is based on the Faraday's law. So that's why in the fourth class, we start with the Faraday's law. Then we discussed about the transformer. Everyone having one question from the transformer topic. Everyone having at least one question from the transformer topic. First, we discuss about the Faraday's law. First law and the second law. Then we have a transformers. In the transformer, first we discuss about the construction, EMF equation, efficiency. To find the efficiency, we need to discuss about the losses. Because once we need to find the efficiency means we need to discuss about the losses. So that's why the losses, what are the losses are there? We have a copper losses, iron losses. So we have a problem from this. How to calculate the copper losses or how to calculate the efficiency. So everyone having at least one question from this area. Especially in the transformer, we have problems here. Okay. At the same time, we discuss about the regulation. That is, for example, in the MAP, we are using the 1600 kVA transformer. So the capacity of the transformer is 1600 kVA. In the secondary, we need to get a 1600 kVA. Instead of 1600 kV, we are getting only 1500, which means we have a losses. Okay. So to find these losses, we go this area. Okay. In the transformer, the secondary is a 415 voltage or 240 voltage. For understanding, we take the 240 voltage. The secondary of the transformer is 240 voltage. We are expecting 240 voltage, but we are getting only 220 voltage. So what is the difference? 20 voltage. How we calculate this difference? We go for the regulation. So efficiency means we discuss about the losses. Regulations means we discuss about the drop. So we are expecting 240 voltage, but we are getting only 220 voltage. The difference is 20, but because of voltage drop. So here we need to minimize the losses. Here we need to minimize the drop. So how to calculate this drop? We have some formulas also. And this formula also important. And this formula is same for transformer, alternator, and transmission systems. Because in the transformer, in the secondary side, we are getting the voltage. In the alternator, we are getting the output, we are giving the mechanical energy, we are getting the electrical energy. In the transmission systems, in the sending end, in the raw subwoofer, we are sending the power. In the muntasa, we receiving the power. So that's why the same formula, the same concept, we are using the three devices. Either transformer or alternator transmission systems. We have this question either in transformer or alternator in the transmission systems. Then, so what are the losses and how to find the voltage drop? Now, how to find these losses? How to find the losses? We need to conduct the experiment. So in our colleges, we did two experiments. One is a open circuit test, another is a short circuit test. So here, open circuit test and short circuit test. By conducting this open circuit test and short circuit test, we calculate the losses. So we have a question here. Rarely they ask this question, how to conduct the open circuit test. So that means we go to our college, we put in our record, but we need to read the procedures. That's all. Usually what we do in the auto transformer, we need to vary the auto transformer. We keep the voltage constant to find the open circuit test, or to find the copper iron losses. To find the copper losses, we need some procedures. Just we need two keywords. Not in a, they didn't ask the experiments. We need to remember the keywords. Iron losses, we need to keep the voltage constant. Copper losses, we need to keep the current constant. That word we need to remember. That's all. Okay. So these are the topics we discussed in the transformers. As I told, everyone having one or two questions in the transformer topics. And next we discuss about the alternator, synchronous motor, induction motor. So in the alternator, here also we discuss about the conception, EMF equation and voltage regulations. So similarly in the synchronous motor, so at least we have three broad categories are there. Every engineer is having at least two questions here. Either alternator in the synchronous motor or synchronous to induction motor or induction motor alternator. 100% everyone at least one or two questions from these areas. Yes. So synchronous motor, again we have a construction EMF equation procedures and curves. So these are the topics we discuss here, and especially if you know these two formula, 100% everyone having one question. By using this formula, you may solve one problem. If you only these two formulas is enough. If you know these two formula, some concepts or how to solve the problem, if you know the tricks, you may attend one question. 100% everyone having this question. This formula is we may use the NS is equal to 120 F by P is formula we may discuss in the alternator and the synchronous motor, and the slip is exclusive for the induction motors. So three-phase induction motor, single-phase induction motor, and especially we have only two. So far, we hear the only two questions related to the single-phase induction motor. One question in the permanent capacitor induction motor, which is used in, or in the ceiling fan, which motor we may use. Nowadays in Qatar, we didn't have a practice to see the ceiling fan. Most of the people, we didn't see the ceiling fan. But this question asked in the exam, in the household ceiling fan, which type of single phase induction motor we may use. So split capacitor start motor, permanent capacitor motor, capacitor start, capacitor end motor, universal motors. By this way, we have 4 options. The answer is permanent capacitor motor. This question frequently asked in the exam that we discussed in the 4th topic, that is in the 5th class. And we have one problem. Efficiency. What is the formula for the efficiency? Output to the input power. P output to the by P input. Okay. In the motor, we are giving the electrical energy, we are getting the mechanical energy. So power output is a mechanical quantity, power input is a electrical quantity. Is correct? Okay. In the single phase supply, how to find the power? V into I. Simply we say V into I. If you go to the first DC fundamental, if you go to the second AC fundamental, we say VI cos theta. That's all. So power input, we say VI cos theta. Power output is a mechanical output. Usually the electrical output we denoted in terms of watts. Mechanical output, electrical power usually we denoted in terms of watts. Mechanical power usually in terms of HP. So the given data in terms of HP, we need to convert the HP into watts. That question also asked in the exam. 1 HP is equal to how many watts? So the given data in terms of HP into 746 watts. Okay. So now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 circles are there. That is in the question paper. Out of 5 data, they give only 4 data. We need to find the 5th one. Sometimes they give the output power, voltage, current, power factor. We need to find the efficiency or vice versa. So 5 variables are there. Out of 5 variables in the given question paper, they give the 4 variables. We need to find the 5th one. So mostly we have one question. Efficiency, power factor, HP, voltage are given. We need to find the current. This question frequently asked in the exam, and the answer is 64.5 ampere. But so far they didn't change the numbers. That's why I say the numbers. Okay, this question, these 2 questions, that is to find the current and permanent capacitor motor. If you know these 2 numbers, permanent capacitor motor 64.5. And in power system, control systems, measurements. In our college days, power systems means we start with the transmission distribution engineering, then power system analysis, then advanced power system analysis, power system protection switching gears. Then if you have, those are completed recently, in addition with this, you may study that flexible AC transmission systems. Transmission distribution engineering, power system analysis, advanced power system analysis, protection switching gear. These topics, those are completed more than 15 years before you may study this topic. Those are completed recently, last 5 years or 10 years, they may study these words. FACTS, flexible AC transmission systems. That is electrical energy plus power electronics. Electrical machines plus power electronics. They use this flexible AC transmission systems. Okay. So these are the topics you study in our college days. Okay. And in our college days, we studied that Newton's absorption method. By this way, we studied that 8 marks or 16 marks, very lengthy steps. So in our exam, we didn't have that type of very lengthy problems. Simply, we need to remember 50 to 60 words. If we know the 50 to 60 words, we may answer the questions. For example, first question, for example, we take the power systems. In the Qatar, in the residential building or residential, what is the voltage level? 240. That question asked in the exam. So that question, 240 voltage, the residential building, that is related to the distribution. The 240 where we get it, it is related to the distribution. The distribution is related to the power systems. So we have a question related to the power system, this one, 240 voltage. So that's why I say this question is related to the power systems. Okay, 240 voltage. What is the tolerance level? Plus or minus 6%. In our home country, that is in our home country, I think he is left. I didn't know that. So most of the people belongs to India. In India, we have 230 voltage plus or minus 5%. But in Qatar, so again, we forget about your nationality. You have a Qatar ID, which means you are a Qatar national. And based on this Qatar ID, you appear for this exam. So always in your mind, you think you are in the Qatar. So here we have a practice 240 voltage, not 230. And here we have a plus or minus 6%, not plus or minus 5%. So 240 voltage plus or minus 6%. That question frequently asked in that exam. So in the power systems, and so this is a simple questions, and in our colleges to solve this power system analysis, we are using these. You may hear the word slag. And what is the definition for the good power systems? What is the definition for the weak power systems? So we have here and there, we have 10 to 15 topics. So each topic is there, we may take a 5 minutes. At the whole 30 to 40 minutes, we discuss the power systems. And the control systems also, not in our colleges, we draw the PODA plot like this. Here we didn't have any questions related to the PODA plot like this, very lengthy, or steady state error like this. So here we need to remember the 10 formulas. Based on the formula, the repeated questions we solve in the classrooms. Okay. So measurements. So one sample question, why in our construction activity, we write the RFI. Okay, we write inspection, the consultant will come here. For example, assume that I need to take, before cable laying, I need to take the cable insulation test for the cable drum. Okay, so before pulling the cable, we request the consultant, we in front of the consultant, we do the experiment that we need to conduct the IR test. Okay, to conduct the IR test, we need to show the measure. What is the first here from that consultant? First question they ask that where is the calibration certificate for your equipment? The first question always they ask the calibration certificate. Why we go for the calibration? This question asked in the exam frequently, especially related to the measurements. The calibration certificate which is used the reuse the equipment. Every year we need to calibrations. For especially the electrical instrument, we use calibration for every year. For HSC, that is heavy equipment, every 6 months. We forget about that part because our objective to get the license. And usually in our construction activity, first thing, if you enter your site or before going to the site, we take the scope of the work. Okay, this is my scope, this is your scope. I never come to your scope and you never come to my scope. Our objective to my scope of work. My objective get the exactly get the license. So that's why the objective to get the license. So here we discuss about that. Sixth topic in our class, we discuss more than 70 to 80 different questions. All the questions frequently asked in the exams. One sample question, as I told that calibration. And why we go for that earth? How to improve the earthing? Usually, as per Karama standard, we need to maintain the one boom. In the earthing system, we need to maintain the one boom. Unfortunately, we didn't get the exactly one boom. So we need to add the bentonite powder or some mixtures to increase the resistance value. So that usually in our home country, usually what we use the word, the coal and salt mixture we are using to increase the resistance value. So that question also frequently asked in the exam. So in the 6th class, in the classroom, instead of the topic wise, we discuss the question answer sessions. And the 7th, we discuss about the oscillator. Oscillator. So far we have a RC oscillator and LC oscillator. We have a question from these two oscillators. That is RC oscillator, RC phase shift oscillator, Wien-Bridge oscillator, Hartley oscillator, and Colpitts oscillators. RC phase shift, Wien-Bridge, Hartley, Colpitts. So we have a question from these oscillators only. And the logic circuit, similar to the control systems, here we discuss about that 10 to 15 truth tables. Based on the truth tables, frequently asked the question we discuss here. So they give an equation, we need to simplify these equations. Timer circuit, 555 IC. You may hear the word astable multivibrator, monostable multivibrator. So by using these two multivibrator, we have two equations are there. That is how to find that frequency, how to find the time taken. By using these two formula, we have a questions. And the last, computer communication general topic. For example, if you come to the computer, what is the comparison between that EEPROM and EEPROM? Okay. And here in the ELV system, those are working in the ELV systems, we are using the CAT cable. And we are using the different topologies. In a computer network, we studied the topologies, star topology, bus topology, hybrid topologies. So we have a question related to these topologies in our exam. And what is the purpose of the CAT cable? What are the limitations for the CAT cable? And in the communications, so here we didn't see the towers. Usually in our home country, we may see the towers. In the tower, we have a very big distance there. So what is the distance between the two towers? Usually we say that 45 kilometers, or we have some distance or that. So how to calculate the distance? We have a question from this communication topic. So in the computer communications, most of the questions are in a daily life, we may use these words. So most of the people working in the construction, specifically in the electrical related construction activity, very few work in the optical networks field. So we have a question from these areas. And the PMP, we will discuss these questions. And in general, we have 50 to 100 questions are there. So only if you go to the 50 to 100 questions, we may clear these topics. So these are the topics we discuss throughout the next 10 days. Okay. So right now, so before going to that subject, again, on behalf of Green International, I congratulate to everyone to get your license. So today is the first class. So introduction class. Just we discuss about the general topic, and we discuss in the DC fundamental. We start in the next class, because in the DC fundamental we have problems all there. So that's why we start with the 7 o'clock. Okay. Just we discuss the general topic. That's another 10 to 15 minutes. Hello, sir. Are you able to see a slide?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So these questions are frequently asked in the exams. The first question: how to convert inch into centimeter? So usually we say 2.5, but exactly we need to get the 4 marks. We need to 2.54. 1 inch is equal to 2.54. 1 HP is equal to. So usually we say 750 watts. but exactly 746. And second question, nowadays frequently asked this question is asked in that exam. So everyone familiar with that, because in our site activity, we need to measure the cable tray length. So we have in a CAD drawing, we measure the length, and in the bottom we have a scale. From the scale, we calculate the total length, actual length. So similarly here, a line between the 2 points measured 7.25 inches on a map whose scale is 1:62,500. How many miles apart are the 2 points on the ground? The given data scale is 1:62,500. Actual length is, in the drawing, the length is 7.25 inches. So first we need to calculate the total inches. That is 7.25 into 62,500, which gives the total inch. That is the actual length. But in our question, we need to give the answer in miles, not in the inches, which means we need to convert the inch into mile. To convert the inch into mile, we need to remember the one mile, which is equal to so for this particular problem, we need to remember this number. Okay. That is 7.25 into 62,500, which gives 45, 31, 25 inches. Okay. So we need to convert these inches into mile. So by using this one. So for this particular problem, you need to by God this number. This question nowadays frequently asked in the exam. We know that 1 kilometer is equal to 1000 meters. But the inches, we need to by God this. I'm right in the screen, but you are not able to see this. At the same time, because in the recording, you may refer that. That's why I write here. Okay. But online classes, they may see this. So 1 mile, it is equal to 63,360 inches. Okay. So 1 HP is equal to 746 watts. And the second question. What is the sum in the degree of the interior angle of the 6-side polygon? That is the hexagon. So here the formula is n minus 2 into 180. So 6 side, that is 6 minus 2 into 180. Suppose in your exam, instead of the hexagon, they ask the octagon means 8 minus 2 into 180. So we need to by God the formula. So these are all these questions asked in that exam. Again, as I told, it's a computer-based multiple choice exam questions. That is, all the questions are put in the server. So you may, in your exam, the question may be shuffled. So that's why these questions may ask in your exam. We have 3 questions. All the 3 questions having the same answers. That is sustainable development. Which one?
I mean, this question.
Yes.
Are we going to go through them again?
Yes, in the last class we discussed everything. But because why I saw these questions, these are the general topic questions in your exam. You may have these questions. Just you may aware about them. Yes, you may take a picture or you may get a PowerPoint in your. They will share the PowerPoints on your mail ID. You are that is these are the questions asked in exam. Just you are aware about questions. That's all. We go on to questions, which is used in the site activities. Most of the general topic questions are used in the site activities. The 30th questions nowadays, most of the projects they are using the value engineering. We need to value engineering, but we at the same time we didn't compromise with the specifications. We didn't compromise the as you told quality, but we need to reduce the prices because I am the estimation field. So we need a spec. We need to in line with the PVL, in line with the specifications, but the price may be reduced. Okay, this is the nowadays most of the projects they go for the value engineering. These two questions related to the mechanical and civil engineering, but we have the asked question in the electrical also. So it's a problem discussed in the later stage. So you need to answer not related to the daily life. If you go to that first question, for example, never we didn't return that. For example, due to the site urgency, part of the material we need to procure that. Even though we raise the PO for the 100 material, but due to the site urgency, we procure the partial materials. But in the reality, we didn't do like this. And the second one also. Sometimes we may accept the gifts. Okay. So assume that we have a resistance, we have a voltage source. I put the arrow mark, which means it's a variable. That is variable, we are increasing the voltage. So the resistance connected with the variable voltage source. So that is, we are increasing the voltage. Okay. Initially, we have the voltage. Now increasing the voltage. What will happen? The circuit is closed, current will flow. Correct? The current will flow to the resistance. The current flow to the resistance, what will happen? In the iron box, we switch on, what will happen? The iron box, it becomes heat energy. So that means the resistance is the heat energy. Correct? Heat dissipation. The electrical is converted to the heat energy. So voltage increases, current increases. So thereby it produces heat energy, it also increases. Okay. Again, we are increasing the more voltage. What will happen? Is take more current. Is take more heat energy. One fine time, what will happen? What will happen? The resistance may blown. Okay. So the zero voltage, assume it's 7 o'clock and the day 1 class. Now it's 8:30 or 9 o'clock. If the day 1 effect itself, I give more information, you may burned out and never come to the next class. So today finish. Today we will close the today's class and we discuss the next class and we start with the DC fundamentals. Okay? Okay?
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.